Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I put this together so you folks can ask those important questions that you need to ask. It also will be recorded, and I'm expecting all of you to be asking those challenging questions, okay? You don't need to be soft with it, and if you are challenged with your questions, ask your neighbor. Make an attempt to ask those questions because I can read into your mind, so I can help you out with your questions, okay? This is for your benefit, and it will be recorded, and you will be on mic, and you will be on camera, okay? Now, is everybody okay with that? Is there anybody that is not okay with it? Because if you're not okay with it, you can't be here, as I've made it clear, okay? This is going to be on the public forum. So just a thumbs up or two thumbs up. And the gentleman over here, thank you very much. Okay, thank you. So, we all have something in common, okay? That's the premises here. We have something in common. And what we have in common is that we all have contracts in our lives, okay? The other thing that I must point out to you is that if you are a sovereign, as it were, because you've got so many movements out there, the sovereign this and sovereign that. Sovereign, what it just simply means, without any other connotation, is that you are alone and you have no other contracts tying you with anybody else. You're not even married. That's what a sovereign is. And you've got your own roadways, you've got your own railways, you've got your own gold, and you've got your own self, and you are Tarzan, the ape man, okay? Until he meets Jane. Full stop. I have not introduced myself because all of you guys know who I am. Quite a lot of students here as well, and some students here for, I don't know, 5, 6 years or so, okay? But you all know who my name is, and we'll just go with that. When you ask those questions, do state your name, okay, for everybody else and for the world to hear it as well, okay? We're all okay with that? Do not be camera shy. I'll be going in and out of subjects while I just brief you on the layout, how this is going to be working. And I'll be introducing some other subjects as I feel that you guys need to hear it, or the larger audience needs to hear it, i.e. YouTube, video, and so on and so forth. Okay? Now, I want to make this very clear. First thing is first, that is that you have to get yourself educated. If you don't get yourself educated, you're going to be disadvantaged, all right? And the course of this sort of 3.5 hours, as it were, you're going to learn a lot of things with 100% evidence, with some with 1,000% evidence. I only deal with first-hand knowledge, okay? Only first-hand knowledge. I don't talk about theory. And if I do talk about theory, I will say that is theoretical, and I have never done it. But my guess is this is how it works. And I will make that clear. So everything that I talk about is things that I have done, or my students have done, or my judges have done. It's coming from somewhere. It can be qualified, okay? It's not coming out of thin air, saying, like, for example, claiming that I'm a sovereign. I don't want to be a sovereign. That's a very lonely state of condition, okay? Make that clear. Some other bits and pieces that you need to know about is your general priming as it takes place. You're primed to behave in a particular way, and I'll be going through that as well, but not so in depth because all of you already know it. One of the things that you need to know is that about 20 years ago or 25 years ago, before the whole Tony Blair thing kicked in Britain, as it were, everybody's communication skills were okay. Men were able to talk to women, women were able to talk to men, and so on and so forth. The media, when they asked you questions, the question actually sounded like a question and not an accusation. So under that era of Tony Blair, what happened is that they were priming the culture, that's you lot, including the Americans, the whole of Europe. They were priming you to move away from asking questions and make accusations at each other. Because if you accuse me of something, I'd be put in a position of defending myself. And all you have to do is the courts, the governments, all they have to do is just make a statement, and you go instantly into a defensive mode, and you've opened your mouth and you have broken the word of silence. You are defending yourself over something they have no claims over. If I call him a thief, even if he's in my supermarket, he has to have walked out with one of the items in my supermarket outside of the premises without paying for it before I can even begin to question him, let alone make an accusation of that he is a thief. But because the default position with most human beings, because they're so easy to prime, is that the security guard, the fellow shoppers will be quite happy to call him a thief, which is a total lie, because it hasn't gone to due process. The due process that I'm talking about is the due process that you and I give each other every single day, if that makes sense. You guys are all okay with that? You understand what I'm talking about? You will get a chance to ask your questions, but essentially I'll be talking about the subject matters before I take your questions. If you've got a pressing question coming up, just ask it, but ask it in a sound and clear voice so the mic can pick it up, okay? So after my talk, when you guys get your chance to ask your questions, I suggest you write your questions down or memorize them, and the mic will be passed to you physically. Yeah, you don't need to come up here physically where you can ask your questions, okay? So feel really comfortable being in the general public, because you are, whether you like it or not, are in the in the public as opposed to the private. Everybody knows what the domain of private and public is? Anybody here that does not know? Feel comfortable putting your hand up? Okay, so I'm going to call your bluff, because this is fully interactive and I made it very clear that I will be interacting with you, and it's a chance for you guys to step up and say what you need to say. Okay? So, I'll choose you. Can you give me an example of the private and the public, please? I can't hear you.
Here is private.
Yeah, okay. And where is the public?
Public is outside the internet.
Yeah, so anything outside of this door is public. This is private and confidential. What is confidential? Anybody know? You see it 1,000 times on telly when you watch these programs like James Bond and CIA, FBI. They rubber stamp something. What does it say? Confidential.
Say it to yourself.
Keep it safe. It's a command to keep it safe. If it says private and public, what does it mean? It's non-public and keep it safe. That's all it means. You have same access to that type of contracts, because they're contracts, in your life as a CIA does, or a government officer, whatever it is. You are never powerless. Okay? And I'll prove all of these things as we go along. Okay? Full stop on that. So, coming back to the nature of questions, feel free to listen to your question as to opposed to whether you're telling me. It's like, where did you get that bottle from? Which is an accusation. It's presuming and assuming that it's my bottle and that I got it from somewhere. Does that make sense? Yeah. How would you ask a simple question? Oh, Mark, is that your bottle of water? If so, can I have some of it, please? That's how we talk. Okay? He who makes the statement has to make that statement as a claim. If he's making it as a claim, then he has to provide evidence for the claim. Otherwise, it's a false claim. If you're going to make a statement, if you can't back it up with numbers, numerical statement, as in an accountant statement, or a written statement, if you can't back it up, it's not a claim. It's just a statement. Everybody appreciate what I'm saying here? Okay? So, I'll come on to myself, because a lot of people are starting to ask me, you know, who are you, Mark? You know, what are you doing? Who are you? And, you know, how comes you're doing all of this sort of stuff? 2008, so I'm answering the question myself now, as it were. 2008, I had an illness, okay, and the doctors and everybody, it doesn't matter what illness it is, but the doctors and everybody saying you can never get rid of it, etc., okay, and that essentially this will happen to you, that will happen to you, you'll die a horrible death. So at that time, what happened is that my conscious mind, which only occupies a very small part of me. I'm not going to speak for you guys, but my conscious mind only operates a very small part of who I am and what I am. That includes my biology, the rest of my neural network, my memory banks, and so on and so forth. It just surrendered. It said, sorry, bro, I'm vacating this position here. Can't deal with that, you know, to say everything is now imminent. I've done my best to create the illusions and the lies for you. I've done my best to give you the best egos that I can possibly pop up, but I'm now completely and totally knackered, and I need to leave. So it did. It left, okay? And when it left, I sat down in the gymnasium that I was and said, okay, let's stop everything. I'm going to stop everything, work the lot. I'm not going to worry about money and so on and so forth. And I did. Within 14 days, I reversed that illness. And when I reversed it, I tried to publicize it. And the whole world just went silent on me. You know? And then I found out that this has happened to millions of other people, and they're not able to get their message out. So what I essentially did is that when I did reverse it, I did keep a detailed record of what I do, because I was trained by the Open University in the olden days to keep proper records when I studied science, oceanography, okay? So I wrote a book on the subject, and I publicized it. And I decided to hold talks on it, and I decided to do it with a guy called Jim Humble, okay, who became a very good friend of mine. In doing so, a lot of these pharmaceutical companies, television companies, newspapers did articles on me, character assassination attacks and all that sort of stuff. There was a particular stage where they were parked outside my house. I think that was by a BBC. And they would not approach me if I'm suited and booted, as it were, but wait till I go to the gym with my hat on, you know, with my jacket on, so I look like some East London criminal, okay? And with the connotation of black and all that sort of nonsense, as if I look like a black criminal, okay? And they portrayed it exactly the same way, because they were living off the connotation of the general public, okay? That cannot possibly stop someone like me, because once you make a decision, and that's very important, once you make a decision, there is nothing that can stop you. What the corporations did, the media and so on and so forth, is convince every single one of us, and when I say us, and I don't care how far you are in this, your ability to sympathize has to be there for the people that we once were, or the people that are stuck in that paradigm, okay? So it's an opportunity to sympathize. Once you make that decision, there is nothing that anybody can do. There is no laws, and all of these things that they've been talking about, the statutes, legislations, and so on and so forth, that's all null and void. They got you the illusion that they have constant power over you, that if you don't do what you do, then they're going to character assassinate you in the public. I've never worried about my character. Never. I've never worried about what they might do, because by that time I understood that they have no power. The only power that they have is try to contract with you by getting you to react. And that can be verbal, that can be statement, that can be numerical, that could be anything. As long as they contract with you, with your permission, then contract is made. And that's the only way that these fiction people, and you'll learn about fact and fiction, can ever come into your life. And it doesn't matter how big it is. Yes, there are exceptions. If you hurt somebody, you will go down. That's the only time the courts will step in, bypassing any due process even, when they have real evidence that you've hurt people. Public safety, health and safety, and so on and so forth. These they don't compromise on. It doesn't matter if you fly your flag. You use the flag, this is a grammar flag, you use the flag for any other purpose than other than to communicate and to contract with people in a correct fashion, you'll be taken out instantly. Okay? And I've seen it happen. Full stop. Why am I telling you this? You need to know the limits of what is absolute, as it were. What does absolute mean, by the way, in passe? Yeah, it means non-salute, okay, as in you're abnormal. AB means no. And you'll learn a little bit about that as well. So, when I was at that position, when I made the decision to go with what I'm doing, okay, yes, they sent a lot of letters, and yes, a lot of threats. We're going to sue you, we're going to take you to the courts, and yes, they tried to shut down my venues. You know, everything that you can possibly imagine that they can do, they did. And do you know how much they can do to you? Somebody give me a percentage. Shout it out. Feel comfortable to interact with me.
0.
That's correct. Yeah. The only thing that they could do is pick up the telephone and tell the venue, we'll give you £10,000 if you don't hold this. That's all they can do. Deception, lies, fiction, and so on and so forth. Okay? By that time, when I had dealt with my health side of it and made my mark to say that the witch doctor general, because that's who runs the pharmaceutical, the witch doctor general has no power except to beg my permission. And that's the position I put them in. And people that have done these things before, like Ralph Nader, will openly say, go after anybody, the president, the first lady. Don't go after the pharmaceutical, because they'll come at you with such ferocity, you may not survive it. Yeah? I'm not frightened. I'm not led by fear. I don't react in fear, as it were. Okay? And I expect everybody on this planet to do exactly the same. So when I made my point with the pharmaceutical, I was now ready, up and running as a federal judge, okay, because I was learning how the system works and using it on myself when they came after me what I did with the pharmaceutical. So as a result, I got better and better, because by that time David-Wynn Miller, who I'm going to be talking about, educated me enough for me to become autonomous with what I'm doing, or what I was doing at that time. And I mostly put it down together through his books. I also got it down to a fine art, as it were, by his videos, because he releases all that information. Okay? So that's how I use David-Wynn Miller's technology to make my point in the world. And I want to make this very clear. And I want to make this very clear to the world and you folks as well. I'm not a hero worshipper, by the way, okay? I don't worship heroes. I have no heroes. So I'm preparing you for the next statement that I'm going to make. If I was to say that David-Wynn Miller was, like Moses or Jesus or, the fifth coming or whatever it is, and I want to make this clear as possible, and I'm sorry I keep repeating it, that will be the understatement of this entire century, millennium, whatever era we're in. It would be an understatement, because this is the guy that will be sending them to you. Yeah. What I met with David-Wynn Miller surpassed anything that I ever thought could possibly exist. Okay? And I'm making that public. So, if you guys said to me, gosh, David-Wynn Miller's like a Jesus figure, that would be an understatement. This is the guy that will be sending it. This is the guy that would send the Jesuses to the world, okay? And I was lucky enough to meet him and be trained by him, okay? And when he passed away, which was only recent, I had a conversation with him, and I will say, I'll make sure that your technology and the things that you brought to this world reaches as many people as I possibly can. And that's my contract with him. Okay, that's why I don't want to be a sovereign, because without it, I have no contracts. And who wants to be in that position? So that's one of my agreements with him, is that I will spread this news as fast and thick and strong as possibly I can, using first-hand knowledge. So if we have not done it, because I'm part of a large team, if we have not done it, I don't teach it. Hence, I don't teach theory, okay? Theory is somewhere else. This is all first-hand knowledge. Full stop. Now, there are certain people that I do need to thank, okay? Like David-Wynn Miller, Jim Humble, who I came to love very much because he's the leader of the Genesis 2 Church, and you guys all know about that because of the health side of things. What I found this man, this Jim Humble, is that he was a very gentle soul. But all he wanted to do is just realize that all he wanted to do is to let people know that you don't need to be ill. Okay? And one of the methods is what he introduced, which is the use of oxidators. There are many other types of oxidators, and we'll go through that in your movies. Okay, and we'll be looking at some of the movies, because if you do not watch your movies, you're not reading your newspapers, especially the Telegraph, because that belongs to the judges and they put their stuff in there, what they're up to. Like, for example, a few years back in the Telegraph, they published a list of all the known paedophiles in Parliament as well. And all the judges were doing is waiting for a complaint to be launched with the judges for them to take power, to say, we've let you know thousands of complaints have come in, and we've got enough evidence to put them behind bar. We're now putting it in the public for you to make a complaint with us. Without that complaint, we can't do nothing. We're powerless. You understand? That's the power of contract. But what happened? Very little. Because the general public, by no fault of their own, don't have enough faith to even write a letter out. 50 years ago, your grandfathers were all letter writers. They knew about contracts. They knew how to write to their banks, their mortgage companies, and communicate. But those skills were slowly drawn away. When I was at school, or junior school, they released in the BBC, and I remember it very well, they said, we're going to stop teaching syntax in English. Yeah, that stayed with me for the rest of my life. I see, you're going to stop teaching syntax. I don't know why it caught my ear, but I remember it to this day. And it was on a BBC, and it was a female reporter that made the report. And I was only about that big then. Okay, I remember that very well. They stopped teaching syntax. That means they stopped teaching people how to put pen to paper. So you can't make contract. Every Victorian knew how to run their entire court. Everybody had their own court of record. Okay?
Do you know what year that was they stopped teaching?
It was just at the dawn of Margaret Thatcher when she came into power. It'd been 1983 or something like that. Actually, I would have been about that tall, I suppose. Okay? The other person, my little baby brother, okay, who did not make this journey in life. He was the most cutest guy you can possibly imagine, even as a baby. If you were sitting here, you would all love him. He was an angelic type, okay, but he didn't make the journey because of the subspecies that infest your planet. And I'll be talking about that as well, because if you don't know who these people are, they will take from you, all right? And I'll cover that later on. Full stop. The other guy is George Christian Azariah. He taught me theology, and he introduced me to guess what? The mathematical interface on the world of language, thought, and behavior. But he was missing 99.999% of something. But he had it so close to what David-Wynn Miller had already created, we instinctively knew the other half was somewhere else. And it took me over 30 years to find David-Wynn Miller. Okay? 30 years had passed, but I never gave up for hope. So what he was actually looking at, George Christian Azariah, he taught me theology, Egyptology, and he was a linguist as well, fluent in over 12 languages. He was a UN translator, as well as being a diplomat, as well as being a theologian and a medical man. He was a polymath, essentially, okay? Polymath means people that master many subjects in their lifetime, okay? So I studied it, the thoughts of language and behavior, but what he was looking at was actually the mirror reflection of what reality should be. He was looking at the reflection of, say, I take a gun and shoot the gun. He was looking at the ricochet, what the bullet was doing after it was fired, not the fact itself. He was looking at the mirror images of the facts, okay? And that's the position, the default position or the fault position that human beings are in at this moment, is that they're living in the world of mirrors. And in the world of mirrors, and I'll give you the science behind it because I've worked it out how it works psychologically. It's best for you to quiz me on this because it's very individualized as well, okay? Because some people can move through mirrors, like Bruce Lee, who was a total fiction, by the way. He was a total fiction. You understand that? He was never a fighter. He was never anything. He was just a very good actor, like Clint Eastwood. You've got to understand your world is run by actors. He was a total fiction. Any one of you could slap him and he'll never get up. Okay? You've got to understand these actors when they come into your life. Because they're so good at acting, people actually think that he was the superb martial artist. He was nothing of the sort. He's never had combat in his life. Never has he been in combat.
Excuse me, Mark, where did you learn that information? Because
it's everywhere. Yeah. Everywhere. Have you ever seen him in combat? Have you ever seen him fight? Have you ever seen him do demonstrations and the opponent would say, I actually blocked that punch. He was not as fast as he thinks he was. Steven Seagal has never, ever done anything apart from act. That's all they are, actors on stage. They cannot perform martial arts. They are not martial artists. They are actors. The venues are created for them to give you the illusion that they are somebody. His job was to bring in, and I've diverted a little bit, his job was to bring in the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, because he was always fighting for them, the good guy. The Environment Protection Agency was taking over the world as part of one of the agencies. That was his job. You've got to understand that these people have never been in combat. You've never seen them in combat. You've never been in combat with them. He is not an Ali. He is not a Chuck Norris. Even Chuck Norris will say, we never went there, because he's just an actor. Chuck Norris is a fighter and an actor. He hits you, you don't get up. We never went there. You've got to have to appreciate that these puppets, these actors are created into your minds to enter into it and live out that life inside of you to pacify you. Okay? Now, I have diverted a little bit, but I'll finish with Bruce Lee a little bit. He essentially was created because there was a lot of American disturbance within the poor white and the poor black communities that were taking to the streets and realizing we have a common enemy, which is it's not the blacks and the whites, It's actually the police force and the mayors that are doing all these things to us. They're engineering our economy, so they brought them in to get the blacks and the whites off the streets and punching bags. Pacified them. Click of a finger. Okay? So I'll talk more about the world of fiction. As you know, the world of private and the public. There is a world of fact and there is a world of fiction. Okay? And I will prove the existence of that by just in plain sight. I only use plain sight, self-qualifying, qualified. I don't talk theory or anything like that. It's always out there. Okay? Let's come on to Miller's flag. Generally, people stopped asking me, why do you use an American flag? It's not an American flag. It's a communications flag. Okay? It's a communications flag. It's a communication flag telling the entire world that it's a way of communicating, and the communication is mathematically done. That's what that flag is. And it's global. It's global. Now, I've been around for so long, there isn't a single judge, a prime minister, name it, that's done anything in life that doesn't know what this flag is. Everybody knows who Miller is. And they're hoping that I would bring this to a level where it's self-governing. Okay? The nature of this flag is that you can't lie in it. You cannot lie. And it's also self-correcting. So if you make a mistake on your language, it corrects itself. It has that capacity. That's the beauty of what he created. All creative people create so they can make something autonomous. The reason why you had him is so he doesn't serve you for the rest of your life. You made him to be autonomous. So he doesn't ever need you after a particular age. Okay? If you're from an African culture, it'll be like 27 years old, he'll be at home. If you're from a Western culture, after 18, you should be autonomous. Okay? That's what he did. When he created something, he didn't create it to capture it, but to make everybody autonomous that understands it. That's what creative people do. They create and they make things autonomous. What does autonomous mean? What does an autograph mean, by the way? Somebody shout it out really comfortably.
Authority.
Anybody else?
Authenticity.
Yep. So in passe, it's two words, isn't it? Clearly. Autograph. So what is it?
Writing your authority.
Yeah. Now, remember they use mirrors, so read it backwards.
Writing your authority.
What does graph mean? Graph is graph. What does autonomous mean? It's a graph of your autonomy.
Independent.
Independent means no, pen, or penned, yeah, past tense. So, with Miller's technology, coming back a little bit more on the language itself, it's a communication basis of the Chinese technologies. It's the communication basis for those people that want to protect their patents, the intellectual properties, and so on and so forth. They're already using it. The Chinese are already using it in their, what do you call it? The satellite communication that they have on the other side of the moon. They're using scalar. Essentially you guys know about scalar communications and what scalar is and things like that? Okay, so in your general education, you are taught that your world works in waves and so on and so forth, okay? But in reality, what controls everything is simultaneous energy. Even energy doesn't mean what it means, but everything is simultaneous. Language is simultaneous, thoughts are simultaneous, it all goes under simultaneous energy. But if they move you away from that, what they have is a person that is sitting there so very vulnerable, thinking everything exists in waveform, which only explains probably 0.000% of anything. In other words, it has no explanatory depth. But scalar energy is very different. So I'll give you an example of scalar energy. You've got, say, a hydraulic conduit, okay? And that conduit has dry hydraulic fluid, and the conduit itself doesn't have any expansion. In other words, it's ribbed properly. So imagine this conduit is on a truck or bulldozer. You press 1 inch here, it will come out the other side in exactly time and space with no difference, 1 inch. Now you take that conduit, make it 24,000 miles long, as it has been done, so-called circumnavigating the planet, which is just a coil after coil, and you press it 1 inch here, and you have the other side an atomic clock and a measure, and it has no difference in time. There's no give in it. It doesn't matter if it's like 1,000,000 miles long. When you press 1 inch here, it will come out the other side simultaneously. That's called scalar energy, simultaneous energy. Sorry?
What was it called again? What energy?
Scalar energy. You know, it's Tesla's technologies, okay?
Quantum, is it the same?
No. Quantum means very, very, very small. The smallest part you can think of was once an atom. Now it's like quarks upon quarks, yeah? So that's one example. Say a tsunami. When the ocean bed lifts, there is no give in seawater, and it moves simultaneously. What you see consciously, conscious only, is the aftermath, which is the spillage, which looks like waves, because it is waves. But 99.999% of the energy is in simultaneous. So when the ocean floor lifts up 1 inch, it will lift up on the top of where that wave is, exactly 1 inch. And then all the conscious mind sees is the displacement. But if it was a syringe and it moved up 1 inch, it will move up 1 inch. And it doesn't matter if it's like 50,000 billion miles deep, it will move up 1 inch. The Chinese use that as communication basis, and they use Miller's technology, and they split the wave, so it's now quantum entanglement, which means if somebody's interfered with the reception of this part of the wave, let's call it scalar energy, somebody like intercepted it, it will simultaneously tell them it's been interfered with. So they just cancel that and resend it. If somebody interferes with it, they'll pinpoint it as to his intercepting communication. And you can't be intercepting communications that's not intended for you because it's got your name on it. Okay? So Miller's technology essentially is running the world. And Miller's want is that you folks do the same thing. Get yourself educated. Okay? Have I made myself very clear on the potency what Miller's technology is? And believe me, there are thousands of movies, cartoons being made to tell you this, but you can't see it because you're watching it consciously. Your conscious mind can only see a fraction of what your subconscious mind can see. And your subconscious mind can only see a fraction of what your unconscious mind can see. In other words, your conscious mind may not even be picking up 1/1,000,000,000th of the information. It's not to say it's disabled. That's the kernel. But that kernel will control the entirety of it. Okay? You can bypass it, and I will go through that system as well. Okay?
So, how do you mean self-correcting?
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. So Miller's technology, as I said, is mathematically based. Okay? It's for the, of the, with the, by the. So it will be like in the American passport, it will say for the, of the, with the. Okay? And I'll show you some documents where in the olden days they used to put prisoners' names in and say, for the Mark Kishon Christopher is with the going of the prison, blah, blah, blah. That's less than 100 years ago. Okay? So how is it self-correcting? It's self-correcting because in the world of mathematics, if you say 2 plus 3 equals 5. We all know that. If you missed out the 3, what does the equation still do? It still corrects itself because you know it can't be anything else but what that is. So if you miss out an equation here and there, It just corrects itself. Your subconscious mind does it automatically, and you can go backward and just correct it yourself. That's what creative people do. They create things that can correct themselves. So he, being the father, gave him enough morals, which is the programming he needs to correct himself. Am I right? You did do that, didn't you? It really is that simple. Okay? Full stop on that. So that's Miller's flag. That's what it does. It's a performance contract. Okay? Let's lighten up a little bit more as we get to know each other a little bit more. Anybody? Yeah. You're going to have to speak up much louder because we're not in question time yet.
Okay. I was going to say, is the question Q&A going to be based on the correct sentence communication policy?
It can be anything that you want.
General as well.
Anything that you want, if I can answer it. If I can't answer it, it will be a simple no, I don't know. But would you like me to take a guess?
No. No.
It's fine. No, if you want me to, I can. Yeah, because it's self-correcting. If you kick a football there, you can presume and assume it's going to go somewhere there. But I can't talk too much about ricochet, but I can bring a footballer in. It will tell you, I'll kick it that way, it's going to go there to him, and it will go there to him, and he's not really good enough to tackle it, so I'm very close to the goal. That's education. That's knowledge. That's experience. Okay? No questions yet. Let me go on to a few more things. Okay? Make your questions up, otherwise we'll be here too long. I need to go over some other bits and pieces, so I can't thank enough for David. Somebody read this out to me really, really loud on top. Step up, please. 1, 2. You're asking permission. Permission not needed.
No, I'm going to do it.
Okay.
To live Q&A seminar. There but for the grace of David, David-wynn, Miller, go I, full stop.
That's it. Thank you very much. That is it. If it wasn't for its technology, some pharmaceutical company, some court, some fictitious conveyance of languager would have put me in prison by now. Okay, so I can't thank him enough. And I want to be able to get the whole world to benefit from this, okay? Because it is by the grace of this guy. Whatever it was, I can't tell you. But what is in his book, I created a nation-building program out of it. He actually gives you enough information to create your own nation with it. It's in here. Okay? All right? What else we got here? Language, thought, and behavior. I need to go back onto it. I now have, in the firmness of my mind, the ability to predict what the world of fiction does because of George Christian Azariah's teaching on thought, language, and behavior. If you know the thought of a person, if you know the body language of a person, and I'll cover that with you, you have access into their mind because the body is part of your unconscious mind. You're not fully in control of it. Try controlling your heart rate. You're controlled by something else, okay? So once you have access to body language, the language of your body, you more or less know what they're thinking. If you have access to their vocabulary when they're talking to you, you have access to what they're thinking as well. The only thing that's hidden is their thinking. Everything else is an open display, okay? And there are experts in the world that will tell you by looking at my language what's going on in my mind, and they'll be relatively accurate, okay? Does that make sense? Yeah. Do write your questions down, and I'll, clarify it later on. Let's come on to just 2 of these words. Okay, so we know about poison prefixes and suffixes and future time violations and all that, but what the hell is all of that got to do with anything you're saying to me, or what you're saying to me? Why is it that I can still understand you, even though I've got so much babble? That's the question. So what use is Miller's technology if I'm communicating to you perfectly well in verbal communication? Or is it just the verbal that I'm communicating to you in? It's the body, the tones of my language, which is 1,000,001 other factors which only your subconscious mind can pick up. You put my words, you do a transcript of my words, and you think this guy can't speak a word. There's nothing here that makes any sense. Write out a song, take out the music and the rhythm to it. It's complete babble. Just record 30 seconds of your voice, make a transcript of it. There isn't a single bloody thing in it that you will ever be able to understand, not even you that said it. Try it. Nothing. The people that engineer the language, ladies and folks, the people that engineer your language, they have engineered it to around about 95 to 98% garbage. So your subconscious mind is constantly using its RAM, like on a computer program, to try to fix that program as it goes. So it keeps you in what is known as cognitive overload, cognitive stress. It's constantly trying to fix. It's constantly trying to be congruent. What is this guy saying? What does he mean with this? And when you get that letter through the letterbox, you've done it so successful, it's saying, gosh, I owe this guy £150,000. I'm in now trouble. When that letter says nothing. When it says nothing. It's all done in poetry. Your contracts are written in poetry. Wordsworth would have done a better job writing the mortgage contracts, the credit contracts, with I wandered lonely as a cloud. I all of a sudden came upon a Visa card. That's what your contracts are written in. Full stop. I need to check the time. I'm doing good with time. The word like independent, a simple word like independent. Your subconscious mind with 1,001 usage knows IN means no. As in, you are an incompetent man. If I remove the word in from competent, what am I saying to him? Answer me quickly, folks. He's a competent person. I put that one little prefix, he gets upset, wants to sue me. So what is he suing me for? Just that one word. I strike it out, he's happy. Your subconscious mind, your unconscious mind knows IN means no. So how do they get away with putting things like IN in front of a word? Give me an example.
Innovation.
Huh?
Innovation.
Involuntary, which means no voluntary.
Yeah. Innovation is one that don't
Innovation. Yeah?
Intelligence.
Indigenous. Oh, you look like an indigenous lady. I've just successfully removed her from third location. I'm assuming you guys are from West Indies. Help me out.
I was born in England.
Boring. Are you guys from the West Indies?
I'm from South America.
South America. Well, it's a little bit better, okay? Let's imagine he's from the West Indies. I find a means to get rid of his third location, which means he can't claim nativity. I convince him, where he's native to West Indies, I'm just picking on West Indies, that he's from Africa, that he was brought in as a slave. Engineered. Engineered. You guys are not from Africa. You guys are native to your country. And when they do that, it's called deaffering. They did it to the Irish. They took the Irish and said, you come from somewhere else. Yeah, they've been doing it since the dawn of time, and it's not the British. The British are just the fall guys. Okay? Just give me a second. The point I'm making is that once you believe you come from anywhere else from the land that your grandfathers come from and your grandfathers' grandfathers, and you call yourself a slave, that you don't belong there, your subconscious mind will perform that task on that land, which means show no loyalty. You don't belong here. Don't invest in the land. Don't invest in anything here. Just go about your business waiting for freedom. That's called deaffering. Okay? Yes, please. Yeah. How you spell it, I don't know, actually.
But wasn't it one landmass once upon a time?
It's not once upon a time we're talking about. We're talking about the periods of time that we know about. We're not talking about evolutionary or landmass and so on and so forth.
I'm saying that they called it gay at one stage.
Oh, that's
without
yeah.
the cross displacement,
Yeah.
the separation of the
No, we don't know anything about that sort of stuff. I'm not talking about the things I don't know. I only talk about those things which I know, which are documents of which I've provided for you guys already. Okay, like with the example of the Committee of 300, i.e. from the Swamish communities and all these other documents. That's why you folks are here. Okay, you know that you're being lied to on a conscious level, but your subconscious mind knows that. So that overload, just deciphering that one bloody word, your subconscious mind is going to read that in no other way but to say contract, penned, which means to pen something, no, no. Like you're devolved people. Devolved means no evolution. It knows that. So that's what your subconscious mind is reading, and that's what it's programming your unconscious mind to do. So just by that one single word, they got and robbed you away from doing anything. It's a negative state of condition. It means no, no, penned contract. You're never going to write contract. You're never going to see contract. You're not going to put pen to paper, and it's done. You are incompetent. Look at that, that's the passe of it. That's from the dictionary. They always give you the passe. Remember, this is solution-based. And I'm going to go into the world of fiction because the people that corrupt these things are also there are other people on this planet, ladies and folks. There are other species on this planet. And they don't want you guys as slaves. Okay? They're talking to you constantly. They're talking to you so fast, so much, that it enters your subconscious mind. My job is to get it in your conscious mind. So there is no more hemispheres, okay? And they're talking to you, and I'll show you how they talk to you. They always talk to you by popular medium. Shakespeare in that era. Now it's Hollywood, Bollywood, which always is, that's all one group of people, by the way. Hollywood, Bollywood, Africa, whatever it is, they're all one group of people. They control the images in your mind. You look at the images in your mind, scan them, you'll find very few are from nature. They're mostly golden arches, yeah? Should be. They spent billions of pounds putting that image in your mind so you can be put into your children and children's children. They've invested good. You'll find most of your images are not generated by you. It's generated by advertising companies. You don't even have images of you guys making love to your wives or wives making love to your, whatever it is. You mostly have McDonald's in your mind, whoever's spending the most money. Certainly it would be Coca-Cola with me. Yeah, and I kid you not. Okay? Because that's how good they are. So just two simple words. What it does, it locks your subconscious, unconscious mind out of your access. Because the kernel of what you are is your conscious mind. That locks you out. It locks you out. You remember that demonstration I gave you of the FBI agent? Just hear it. Do you want me to play it out for you, folks? Yeah? So let me do it with you, if it's okay. So I'm an FBI agent, okay? Hello, I'm FBI. We'll go with it. Yeah. I'm FBI agent, okay? Somebody passe that for me. Consciously, we know what's happening. He's thinking, my God, FBI has just come at my door. I'm shaking my boots because they've made 1,001 films saying that we're very powerful and so on and so forth. And they carry guns and they have the power of arrest and all this kind of stuff. Okay, so he consciously already knows that. Do you know what he's told his subconscious mind? Huh? Yeah, go on.
Agent, meaning the prefix of being the A, being no gen. So he's from they're not no gentlemen.
They are no gentlemen. I've told him the truth. If you tell the subconscious mind the truth under the Jungian principle of a lie detector, what does the lie detector do, which is its own self-defense? It stands down. It doesn't register because you've told the truth. It only registers the negative state of condition. That's what they got you doing. That's why they're telling you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, which is what they're doing to you. And I've cracked that code. Well, Miller cracked it in passe syntax. Yeah, I crack it in the movies. And they quite literally use mirrors to talk to you. Quite literally. That's the level of sophistication in their tool. Okay? Hence Bruce Lee's film, Smashing the Mirrors. Think about it, yeah? Telling you the truth and the lie at the same time. a master martial artist telling you the truth. The truth is what you're not seeing, as it were, consciously. He's telling you how to smash the mirrors, but the conscious mind goes for the caricature, the Superman, Bruce Lee, all that sort of stuff, martial artists, kick anybody's ass. No, he was disabled. Disabled. Yeah, just an Errol Flynn. That's all he was, Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn cannot perform any of the things on his movie because he was a very sick man, but he was a fantastic seducer, and he was a fantastic looking guy, fantastic actor, so on and so forth. Okay?
David-wynn say that truth is an opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, you want me to, are you asking me a question? Remember that?
No, because
Are you asking me or telling me?
The word, you use the word, and I remember him saying that it's
Okay.
an opinion, you cannot use it.
All right, so I'll explain that now. You have a perfectly good word called a fact. So what am I now using the word truth for? It's to rob you of the word fact. Yeah, that's how this works. If you have a perfectly good word for stop, think about it. Is there any other word in any language other than stop? They don't mess about with that word. Why? Because you'll go through a red light. You'll argue that it's a philosophical state of condition and that red doesn't really mean to stop, but you can go through it if it's clear. You'll start arguing. So they don't corrupt certain words. Yeah, so they have in this instance, they have a perfectly good word called fact, and then they would call it a truth. And if they're really devious, they'll call it a noun. If you have a perfectly good word for fact, what are you doing using a word noun? Which means N-O, that's Miller's teaching, yeah? Which means N-O-U-N, means no. And you have a perfectly good word for a fact, and what are you using the word truth for? Which is what he's pointing out. So I should not be using the word truth, it should be the fact. Okay?
In 1984, there's a character whose job is to actually reduce the size of the dictionary, or reduce the language they use, to therefore reduce the thoughts that people have and how they can describe themselves. So I guess you're sort of pointing that out with what we're doing with language now.
Yeah, because the more and more simplistic your language is, the more and more power that you have over that language. The more definitions there are per word, the less power you have in those words, because every word you use is a claim. Every word you use is a claim. And if I can get you robbed out of your claim, you can't pick up your gold claim. You can't even pick up your children from your hospital who are in a ward. What does a ward mean? He's in my custody, in my what? Ward. Yeah. Ward means that I govern him. That's what it means, ward. Comes from the word war, as in warning, war. Worshipping means warfare upon a ship. Worship. Okay?
Same as working as well.
Working, yeah. And what do dead people do? They earn a lot of money, don't they? Because that's what an urn is. That's what an urn is where your ashes are. You work yourself to what? Yeah. And what do fools and, finish the sentence, fools and, it was one of the most popular BBC show ever. Do what? Work. Only fools and horses work, because the only animal that works in a farm is a horse.
Or they use donkey.
Yeah. So the robbery can go on and on. It can go on and on. All right? And these are some of the examples which I now need to move away from.
So if we move on, can you just pass say incompetent, please? I mean, Ian is obviously no.
Yeah.
And incompetency, but the previous one you broke it down into even smaller elements.
Yeah, so IN means no, as you know. COM means to come together, okay, as in community, community officer, as in communicate. All these words means coming together. And what's the suffix on it, which is the end word? How do you spell it? What's the large... yeah, go on. ENT. Yeah. Also means contract. Okay? It means no, your subconscious mind will read this like this. You are not going to come together to make contract. Or if it reads it backwards, and that's very important because your subconscious mind is the only thing that can read backwards. Your unconscious mind can probably read it in 50 different dimensions or 1 trillion, but your subconscious mind is the only one that can work backwards. Your conscious mind can't. Try counting backwards in odd numbers. By the time you get to 70, you would have self-hypnotized yourself. Try it. You would have gone out. Your conscious mind will fall asleep. Very few people even get to 70. Okay, just try it. You'll be out. It's like, what happened? You won't be able to tell the time. All of that would have just simply vanished. Everything that pertains to the conscious mind, like constructs, which means with structure, like time and all that, disappears. Okay? So the point that I'm making is that these words lock you in, lock you out, or they perpetually keep you locked in, okay, which is like a mortgage, which means what?
Dead pledge.
Yeah, that pledge. But in reality, because of the work that I do, it actually, the death pledge is the one that granted the mortgage to begin with. And I've proven that already. And I don't mean theoretically, I mean in the courts, with the mortgage company providers and things like that, okay? Full stop. I'm going to come on to syntax, okay? You're seeing a simple word, Bank of England. Before it was called the Bank of England, and now they just call it Bank of England, okay? But the word Bank of England, what this means, the is an incomplete prepositional phrase, like for, the, of the. When you have that, like the bank, that's an instruction for your subconscious mind to put it into the realm of poetry. It's an instruction to say it's not a real bank, but it's a bank only in your mind, only in your mind. And to give you physical evidence, they give you one of these notes, because that which is in your mind has to remain in your mind, because if you're in possession of gold or silver, while they say the bank, your subconscious mind is saying, no, no, no. This is not a fiction bank, because they're giving you real money. So to do that, what they do is they give you one of these. Pass it around quickly. Have a look at it first. And you've got to understand this integrity. You've got to understand it, because if you don't, then you'll get caught out on how much they have to work to hold on to the truth. They have to constantly tell your subconscious mind the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Because if you lie to the subconscious mind, it's going to kick the table and it's going to kick you. And you're not going to be able to stop it, because your subconscious mind has the power of, let's say, Bruce Lee, if you know what I mean. Yeah? It has that much power. You lie to the subconscious mind, it's not going to forgive you. There's going to be consequences. So, in order to keep it in the world of fiction, the bank will physically issue you a promissory note, which is in the world of mind, because it's a promise between you and I. It's nothing physical. It's just a promissory note. I've not given you money in it at all. It's a promissory note, redeemable at a later stage. But if my bank was really, really backed by gold, and I'm giving you gold-backed money or paper money, which are called bonds, I'll give you one of these. Pass it around. Handle that one carefully, because that cost me like £25 for a £5 note. Because it's backed by gold or silver. Yeah. Those ones you've seen 1,000 times, okay? But this one you haven't.
So is that note spendable now?
Or all of them are. But one is a promissory note, one is redeemable by gold or silver. So we'll...
Does this note here have the 2 strikes through it, which it has the gap?
You're too educated for this stuff. You know, just
With that statement up there saying the Bank of England, when you get to that word of, is it fair to say?
It's another incomplete prepositional phrase. So they say...
The word of, can you also say that the meaning is without? So So it says in the Bank of England, it'd be the bank.
Yeah, so what your subconscious mind will do is it will read the Bank of England, which is, in Miller's technology, an adverb-verb scenario. So the verb is the thinking. That's bank. England would be a verb. So by making an incomplete prepositional phrase, what it does, it says fictional bank of the fictional land, England. That's what it means. It means no bank, no land. Okay? It's all maritime. Land is not maritime. Bank is river bank. Currency currency is controlled by what? A bank, like a river bank. It's all maritime. That's why it's called currency. Okay? They have to constantly speak to you. So your words are completely within the domain of maritime, in the world of corporations, in the world of faith, Oxford Dictionary, Cambridge Dictionary, all families controlling you, just like Microsoft with their program. Whoever puts the most amount of program gets to control what? The hardware, which is you. Okay? Yeah, so just give it, write it down and then we'll take questions in a while, okay? You want me to speak a little bit louder?
My question relates to what you said right now.
Yep, go on, say it again, I can't hear you.
My question relates to what you said right now. So.
Okay, go with it then, okay.
Okay. Would you please explain how it's possible that, for example, the article "the bank" becomes the adverb? What makes it?
It's in the dictionary.
Yeah.
It's in the dictionary. It's not what makes it, it's your programming. They have always made it very clear an incomplete prepositional phrase is the perfect way to write what? Poetry. Because if a poetry has any facts in it, it's not poetry. It's no longer poetry. A poetry by its very fact has to have no facts in it. And this is the perfect way how you write a piece of poetry. I wandered as lonely as a cloud. Lonely is a adjective. It's my opinion. As a cloud. Cloud is not factual now because it's lonely. And a cloud cannot possibly be lonely because that's a human characteristics. Unless it's called the cloud has a human face on it. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not that IN means no and it's a fact. It's because that's what you've been programmed to do. Just as if I was to program the German people, of course it is right to kill Jewish people. Because you are in that era. But they didn't do any of these sort of things. It's just a fiction, but I'll cover that later. Yeah? That's all it is. And if I can get a Jewish person to believe that, boy, have I won the game. I've won the game. If I can get you guys to believe you're slaves, I don't need to ever do any work. You guys are going to plow the land, you're going to do everything. And that's what they're doing. They spend a lot of time programming you to believe this word means that, and then swap it around so they can control you. Called mirroring. Okay?
So with that note, has that got gold embedded inside it?
Yeah, because as children, ask your father. We used to pull it out. I kid you not, making it worthless. That's got a strip of silver inside it, yeah. And it's got 2 bars, as he pointed out. You know.
So would people remove the gold and then still try and spend the note back in the...
No. It's what children used to do to say that we want a piece of silver. And our parents used to get upset with us. Say, what are you doing? You know, you made it worthless now, and I have to go to the bank now and get it exchanged. You know, damaged notes, that's all. Okay? Everybody sees that. It's got 2 bars on it, and it's got a real piece of silver in it. And the other one has only coloring of gold and silver. You see it, it's Big Ben. By the way, Big Ben is tuned into Big Nevis. It's tuned into Big Nevis by scalar energy. Because a quartz crystal, which is what all mountains are, pulsates at 1 second per beat. And that's where they get the beat from, Ben Nevis. That's right, Big Ben, which is another word for Ben Nevis. Okay, that's how these systems work. They use nature and then swap it around. Put a mirror in front of it, get you to enter the world of fiction instead of the world of facts.
Do you know the
Okay.
mechanics?
Oh yeah, I know it inside out. Yeah, inside out. But I don't want to teach it today because that's a different subject. And plus it's on YouTube. I explain exactly how it works. A quartz crystal, the timing of a 1 second comes from the quartz crystal because it pulsates. Yeah. Yeah, it discharges electricity all the time. Lightning does not strike. The electrons move from the earth to the sky. Okay? So in World War II, they used to put cables. You know those cables that used to cut the aeroplanes' wings off when the Germans used to come and bomb London and Britain and all that sort of stuff? Those cables, if you put jump leads on them, would give you electricity. Yeah? They just to put them on there, electricity will flow. You just need it earthed, as it were. That's all. You needed that pylon. Okay, so what I'm saying to you is that the world of robbery on this level is on a profound, profound level. Okay? And I'm giving you some very basic examples. And the reason why I gave you that note, if you can pass those notes on that side for me, please. Oh, it's already gone. The reason why I'm showing you these physical evidences is not because I have it, not because they're being caught, is because if they get caught, and you've got to understand that, and you've got to understand the weakness of a psychopath, the weakness of a parasite, because if it ever gets found out that it's like a leech living off your back, or a worm living, pardon the expression, in your anus, you're going to pull it out. And that's what these people are. They're parasitical. And they work very hard not to get caught out. What I have found out is the mechanism that they're using in psychology. That is so important. You've got to have to grasp this before you leave this today. In the world of psychology, as I pointed out, if they write the Bank of England and issue you with a note with a double bar on, your subconscious mind saying it's not done because you've taken fiction and made it into a fact, it will object. You cannot take fiction and put it into a fact. If you're going to take fiction money from a fiction bank, then let it be a fictional note, what they call fiat currency. That's why they're doing it. That's why they're doing it. Full stop. I'm willing to take some questions because of the importance of what I have said on that psychological element, because if you have not understood it, you will not make this journey. You will not understand the power of syntax, parse, or Miller's technology. From day one, you've got to understand a liar must work very hard to keep telling the lies. If he stops lying and starts telling the truth, your subconscious mind is going to wake up. You have told me that you are a no gentleman, and now you're claiming to be a gentleman. He's going to turn around and say, get out, F off. He's going to have power over me. So I have to constantly lie to him and lie to him and lie to him and lie to him and lie to him. Do you know what will happen if you don't tell me the truth? Lie to him, lie to him, lie to him. And the reason why he's shaking hands with him is so he can make contract with me. Okay? Does everybody understands that? Are these contracts? If I was to redeem this in the Bank of England for ask for gold and silver, what will happen? I'll probably get arrested. The security guard will probably want to kick me out from the Bank of England. Do you know what another name of the Bank of England is? Or used to be just a few months ago until they decided to change it? British Museum. It's called the British Museum, Bank of England, which is a private corporation. But if I walked into one of the bank and asked them to redeem this with the value of silver, what's the possibility of them doing that? It's much greater than the world of fiction, isn't it? Yeah, these are actually all redeemable. This is not. This is. They might get clever and say, why don't you just bloody pull the silver thing out and go and, melt it down? You understand what I'm saying? Okay? Yeah, I'll come back to you in a few minutes. I am not happy. I'm dubious as to whether I have fully understood, whether you folks have fully comprehended and drawn in your own minds to the most logical conclusion what the outcome is if you do not understand this. Because there are consequences if you do not understand that. It's not because of fiction and fact, it's because one cannot be mixed with the other, with the higher functioning parts of your brain. Then they'll get caught out on a lie. That's why fiction has to continue lying and cheating and lying and cheating.
Am I right in saying that the £10 in fiction is the equivalent of just writing out your own promissory notes?
Yeah, that's what it is. This is a promissory note. Yeah, this is redeemable. What they call, you can actually go in and get your money, as it were. Okay? This is known as a script.
It's also called a note of hand.
No, yeah, okay. Thank you. All right, so I need to, before I move on, I need to get you guys to give me some examples of how this has worked in your life. So perhaps you might go, since...
As in the promissory notes?
Yeah, give me an example how you've been cheated out of actually making a claim on a real £5 note as opposed to a fictional £10 note or a £5 note.
Well, these notes are actually backed by my labour. Now, I know this. So, in 1930, I think, maybe in England, the silver and gold and silver standard went out. And what the government did, they said, guys on the land, you can live on the land free of charge, all public debt is prepaid, you just have to know how to discharge the charged bills that come through the post. So then what happens is that our currency turned into a fiat currency system, which is a debt-based system, so there's nothing of intrinsic value backing it, except for your labour, which is becoming some birth certificate and so on and so forth. So the only reason why this note would have any value whatsoever is because it's agreed upon by the general consensus that it has some sort of exchange, make an exchange with it. I have been using these because I've been none the wiser up until now. I just want to thank you so much. I'm very grateful for all of the education you've been giving me. I've got very paternal energy about you as well, and I've learned a lot from you. Thank you so much. So yeah, I've been using them, but because I've been none the wiser. And so, and one thing that I try to do is also I try to educate myself on the Bills of Exchange Act, and these are meant to be taken as legal tender, these debt notes. I even approached a mortgage company once and said, would I be able to purchase a house with a promissory note? If I sign it, then it gives it liquidity, which then gives it value. It's value attached to it, which is what the mortgage companies do as well. They're actually meant to be holding your unilateral agreement, because it's not a contract. There's not 3 wet signatures on there. It's a unilateral agreement. They're meant to be keeping it as a surety, as a security, until you pay off the mortgage. Oh, sorry, yeah, the mortgage companies are meant to be keeping the note that you've signed, which you turned into, it's a promissory note essentially. You've given it liquidity with your signature. They're meant to keep that as a security until you've paid off the mortgage, and then they're meant to give that back to you because it's your property, it's got a signature on it. But unfortunately, that's not what happens. Often it's sold into the stock exchange markets, whatever. They receive their value, and they'll exchange you out a series of digital ones and zeros into a system which has no value attached to it whatsoever, ask you to pay that money back with interest on top of it. And I've also been looking into compounding interest, which we have a right to claim apparently as well. It goes unclaimed, and they end up using it for themselves.
Yeah, that's one daylight robbery. And it all starts from a simple deception like this. Because this is no different from a mortgage company selling you mortgages, credit cards. It's the exact identical instrument. You have an engine, it works on petrol, and that's it. It's a combustion, internal combustion, external combustion. It all is combustion. That's the mechanism. This works for countries. This works for the entire global systems, all to rob you of your ability to acquire real gold and keep your own sweat equity and back it by gold. Okay, so it starts from the very smallest, like giving birth in a hospital and asking the permission of the hospital to take your child away. If not, you get arrested. right to your mortgage company or the debt that your country acquires. It's on a global scale, vast in its nature. It's the same instrument. The engine in an old banger, as it were, colloquialism for an old cheap car, is identical to one in a Rolls-Royce or a Rolls-Royce jet engine. They're all combustion based. Okay? If you've seen one diesel engine, you've seen all diesel engines.
May I ask you a question? Sorry. May I ask a question about the promissory note and the mortgage? Because I know 68, Lord Denning specified that it's the...
Okay, so what I would do is not get into that conversation. What he's saying to you is that he's unraveling how the mechanism of corruption works. Okay? Lord Denning has no ability to say anything.
No, my point was is people have been trying to use the promissory note and the legal precedent to try and pay off their mortgages. I'm just wondering whether actually people have had any success in doing it.
I've not met one, that's why they come to me. The point that he's making is that he ended his sentence, however, that's not what happens. They choose who is going to discharge what if you're in their little club. Reason why it is because you are not part of their club, and secondly, you don't have any language to back up your communication with. When's the last time that you ever put a thesaurus or a dictionary with your document? You never did. When's the last time you ever gave them an opportunity to say the means followed by an article? Never did. Yeah?
Ask a question, Mark, please.
So you have to speak up a little bit, otherwise I won't take too many questions. You do need to speak up.
I was just wondering, the gentleman here spoke about signing unilateral agreements with the banks. Since 2008, the crash, is that still going on?
Yeah. Because they never countersign anything. Watch my, let me play out the unilateral, if you guys don't know what unilateral means. I have a contract with the entire planet to take 10% of you guys every time you do something. That's my contract. That's a unilateral agreement, but I have no contract with you. But because I know the world of deception and lies, I get away with it. And that's what's happening. That's what a unilateral contract is. Only one person signed it. Obama will quite often say, I'm making a unilateral agreement with Africa or China. It just simply means China has not agreed to it and is not a signing party. He's just talking out of his backside. Sorry about the language. He's just talking out of his backside, folks. He's just saying nothing about nothing. I have a unilateral agreement with the moon. Yeah, okay. Yeah, at least Bill Clinton has lunar property. He has got lunar property. They sell it. Okay. The point I'm making, point he's making, is that if you're not in control of your language, your claims are not going anywhere. They'll just go back and forward, back and forward. Okay? That's what that's about. It's coming up to 1 o'clock. It's 1:45. We'll take exactly 15 minutes. Remember, all of you are men and women. As a result, 15 minutes means 15 minutes, and you're back here 15 minutes, because I will start. Remember, timekeeping is timekeeping, because if you are late, what will happen is that everybody else will be late, because I'll be waiting for them to turn up for me to start. Remember, you have a contract with every single one person in this room, because none of you are individual. You don't want to be individual. You'll be a lone minnow in a very large ocean of sharks, and they will take you out. Okay?